cowboys in space.
Ooh, Grandpa.
That is how I describe Firefly to people when I talk about it. I don't think there is another way you can really describe it that sums it up to that level. Not only that, but I overall feel like that is a fair judgment of what the show is at its core. Yes, there is the whole fallout of the Civil War aspect and the parallels of the actual Civil War in America, but out of all the sci-fi shows I have seen in my life, this is probably one of the very few shows I look back on and say, wow, they really screwed the pooch on that one. And no, I'm not talking about the actors or the writers or the creator or anyone that worked on it. I'm talking about Fox. Fox really did screw this show from the start. For a show that had a consistent average of 4.7 million viewers per episode in a time slot that is commonly known as the Friday night death slot, all to be thrown away and canceled by Fox is just crazy to me. And from all the constant messing around from Fox behind the scenes, it really did well, and people loved it and still love it to this day. Not only did they completely screw the show at every chance they got, it almost seems like they really wanted it to fail, and unfortunately, they ended up canceling the show far too soon.
Wankers! Embarrassing.
In today's video, we're taking a look at the demise of the show Firefly, some of its issues, and how Fox completely screwed it up. So, with all that out of the way, let's jump in.
Take my love, take my land, I don't care, I'm still free, you can't take the sky from me.
Joss Whedon is no stranger to bizarre and different stories. He's well known for his genre-blending style of writing. But around 2001, after wrapping up Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 5, Whedon decided to take his writing style on a new adventure, something completely different from what he was used to. He had decided it was time to explore a more grounded story with a new framework. For him, that inspiration came from a book about the American Civil War. Whedon's inspiration for Firefly stemmed from the novel The Killer Angels, and what moved him wasn't the tactics or the politics, it was the soldiers themselves and the reality they faced of trying to survive. What is interesting is he didn't want to tell the same old story of the heroes who had won, he was more interested in telling the stories of the ones who had lost. What happens to individuals on the losing side of a conflict? What happens to people living on the fringes of society? They had to keep living in a world shaped by the other side, a side they fought against, and a side they disagreed with. Being a creative writer, his versions of these questions were a bit different. What if history repeats itself? In the 26th century, what happens to the ones who lost? He envisioned a version of the 26th century that humans had expanded across the stars, but instead of a polished utopian future, something like Star Trek had, he pictured it as a gritty and raw universe, sort of like the Wild West, rather than a high-tech paradise. A show where all the outer planets that had humans colonizing them were basically just frontier towns struggling to get by and survive. There are no aliens, no miraculous tech fixes for everything, just regular, ordinary people, all just trying to survive in a vast, indifferent universe. Messy, imperfect, and deeply human. Whedon didn't just want to focus on the chosen ones, or just simply the heroes. He wanted a more raw, gritty, and realistic-centered crew that closely resembles reality. Central to this idea, a crew that was deeply flawed, emotionally wounded, and people who had no grand plan other than staying afloat and surviving. He decided to pitch the show to Fox, and given his past successes, they greenlit the project. Now, I just want to point out, oftentimes people solely credit Whedon for the entirety of Firefly, but I feel it's worth mentioning. Tim Minear also played a crucial role in its development. He was a writer, an executive producer, and contributed a lot to the world building, and also had worked with Joss Whedon on his past shows as well. Credit where credit's due, he helped a lot. Going into the casting, Whedon knew exactly what he needed and wanted for each role. His casting decisions for Firefly were driven by his commitment of bringing on talented actors who could authentically portray the multifaceted characters he envisioned. He sought out actors that not only embodied the physical and emotional attributes of the roles, but also were able to contribute in developing those characters on screen. Part of the challenge was bringing together a group of actors that had the dynamic chemistry that was required for their characters. Whedon's approach to this was an open-ended direction, allowing actors to infuse their own unique interpretations and personalities into the characters themselves. I think the cast was chosen perfectly.
The pitter-patter of tiny feet and huge combat boots.
Shut up!
Each one of them brought their own unique personality to the role they played. After all the cast members were chosen and filming started, problems started immediately from Fox. Whedon had originally intended on filming the show and showing it in widescreen, but Fox rejected this. Not only this, but Fox executives also rejected the initial pilot itself. They had felt it lacked action and wanted something punchier. They didn't like it at all. Following this, Fox then told Whedon Friday afternoon he had to submit a new pilot script on Monday morning or the show wouldn't get picked up, giving him an ultimatum: do it or the show doesn't get aired. Feeling Feeling they had no choice, Whedon and Minier locked themselves in for the weekend to write what eventually became the new pilot called The Train Job. And once again, Fox insisted they added more larger-than-life characters, which is why the characters Crow and Hands of Blue were added into the episode. For the new pilot, Fox set a firm condition. They would never broadcast the episodes in widescreen. This left Whedon and the team in a difficult position, essentially having to film two different versions of the show, shooting in widescreen for eventual DVD release, and having to keep important action, shots, and all visual content within a more restricted, smaller ratio for TV, which made things even more complicated by the fact that the style they were trying to achieve was a documentary style aesthetic. Handheld cameras were used everywhere, giving off a more found footage vibe to every scene. Shots were frequently slightly blurry, shaky, loosely put together, or unsettling in nature. Whedon instructed the camera operators to be found, be rough and tumble. Even the visual effects and CGI were created the same way. They intentionally tried to recreate the use of a handheld camera, providing a sense of real-world aesthetic to all shots in the show. At the time, this was an uncommon approach to sci-fi filming. Most sci-fi shows up until that point were clean, crisp, and precise with their shots. And this was before Battlestar Galactica the reboot came out, so this was a first. Since Fox had interfered from the start, their actions led to them airing the show completely out of order. Whether this was intentional on their part or not, they did air it out of order, which in turn made it harder for viewers to follow the story and characters. The actual pilot, the two-parter titled Serenity, was not aired first as it should have been. So instead, Train Job, when it aired, it left viewers confused as to what they were watching. They were given no context, no backstory, and basically thrown off a cliff and told to fly. Originally aired Friday, September 20th, 2002, The Train Job opened to an average of 6.2 million viewers, and it was ranked 66th overall for the week on the network. And that is with little marketing done, and of course put into the worst possible time slot for the target audience. The time slot they got was traditionally known as the death slot, where shows go to die. So for it to get 6.2 million viewers is still very good. Now, aside from Fox's mishandling of everything so far, they even marketed the show entirely wrong. They tried to pass the show off as a wacky genre comedy rather than showing it as a gritty sci-fi western, which it actually was.
Take a space cowboy, tough guy named Jane,
Now you only gotta scare him.
Pain is scary.
cosmic hooker,
How's business?
None of yours.
and a girl in a box. What do you get? The most twisted new show on television. Out there? Oh, it's out there.
Premieres Friday, September 20th on Fox 5.
What the f is this?
Fox was constantly messing with the creative process and trying to change things all along the way. I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been for the creators and the team when someone is constantly playing with and changing your vision for something. Making it even worse was the fact that Fox constantly aired it in gaps, sometimes of 2 weeks or more between new episodes. For instance, the episode titled Our Miss Reynolds aired on October 4th, 2002, but the following episode, Janestown, didn't air until October 18th, which of course is a 2-week gap, and it wasn't the first time this happened. I'm not going to get into all the episodes and break down each one because no, that's not what this video is about. But I will say, out of all the 14 episodes that were created, Fox only decided to show 11. And another really silly decision they made was they completely rearranged the episodes instead of showing them in the intended order they should have been. And no, this was not Joss Whedon, this was Fox. They changed the order completely in which they should have been aired in. That would have given the show and viewers a much more valuable insight into the world, characters, story, and a more cohesive plot. Seriously, this is the number they aired them in compared to the number they should have actually been in. In the proper order, it gives you a much better introduction into the show and what it is. And if Fox would have chosen to air it this way, viewers wouldn't have been as confused as they were when they tuned in. And it was only later did we actually even get the full 14 episodes, and it wasn't on Fox. Whedon over the years has voiced his frustration with Fox and their mishandling of the show, and not only that, but the overall lack of support Fox gave really crippled its chance of success from the get-go. Despite all their mishandlings of the show still performed relatively well. And yes, the first few episodes may have confused viewers, but it still captivated people and millions fell in love with it. Yes, the show did get cancelled, and we all know that, but its cancellation was a huge upset to a lot of people. And no, I'm not going to get into the cost per episode because relatively speaking to today's productions, it was quite small, so the cost per episode isn't relevant when they are crippling the show from its inception. When it got cancelled, it was upsetting to so many people that fans flooded Fox with letters. And when the DVDs came out, they sold over 500,000 copies in less than a year. Because of the DVDs selling so well and the fans' continued support and uproar about the cancellation, Fox finally greenlit a full-length movie titled Serenity. Brutally honest, I actually really enjoyed the movie, but in terms of sales, it didn't do so well. It barely broke even, and as much as that saddens me, that's just the truth. It had a budget of around $39 million, but it only made $40.4 million worldwide. There's many reasons and speculation as to why it didn't do so well, but the biggest reason that I've found, again, was the lack of marketing or support for the film from, you guessed it, Fox. It is by far one of the greatest letdowns from Fox that I've ever seen, and there's a lot of letdowns from them. But when it comes to Firefly, I really do feel like this show got the short end of the stick, and it saddens me that this show ended the way it did. I don't think there ever will be a good conclusion to this series, and even with the movie that I enjoyed, it just basically gave us a quick wrap up to the show. I don't think it will ever be enough. As fans of the show, I think I speak for all of us when I say, I think we got robbed. I feel like we got robbed. It feels like someone dangled candy in our faces and then slapped us with it. It doesn't feel right. 8 or 9 times out of 10, if you ask any sci-fi nerd, what is one show you wish never got canceled? My guess, it would be Firefly. The show has spread across the world. It's one of the best cult classic shows cut down way before its time, and before it ever had a chance to truly blossom. It's a show that us sci-fi lovers talk about often. I know I do, and lots of shows have referenced it.
Me and Abed have an agreement. If one of us dies, we stage it to look like a suicide caused by the unjust cancellation of Firefly. We're gonna get that show back on the air, buddy.
That shows how well it was loved. Firefly was not only a show that was way ahead of its time, but it also gave us some of the best storytelling in its brief run that still holds up to this day. I don't think there's many things that get me angry or fired up as much as Firefly does. And this may sound weird, but as much as I would love to see a reboot, I just don't feel a reboot would do the original any justice. I don't think anything could live up to the original. And yes, I would love to have a reboot, but at the same time, I worry that if we got one, it wouldn't live up to the standard or tone that the original set for us. Many reboots fail because they try to change the show fundamentally at its core for modern audiences. And when they change the show so fundamentally at its core, it completely ruins it. And I know I won't like the show. And I think many others feel the same as I do. In the current day and age of reboots, it's rare that we actually get something that you can hold up equally to the original. Sure, some of them are good, even being changed or slightly altered, but when it comes to Firefly, just like Battlestar Galactica, a reboot really worries me. I really don't want them to ruin something that I truly love. How can anyone recreate the magic of something that to me was already pretty perfect? It's a high standard to live up to, and I know that. And I know I may be virtually setting the tone for myself for failure, but certain things like Firefly, I don't want destroyed or changed. I want them to be equal, and I want them to live up to my expectations, and most just don't. So if they ever do decide to do a reboot, I really hope it can live up to the original and can stand toe to toe with it. But for now, time will tell, I suppose. Well, that about wraps up this video. Now look, there's so much about the show that I wish it was given the time it fully needed to fully blossom, as I know it would have. And sadly, we just didn't get that. We didn't get the chance to see it fully become what it could have been. And at some point, I will circle back to the show and do a deeper dive because the characters in the show and the story is just incredible, and I'd love to dig deeper into them. But if I keep talking about it currently, I'll just keep getting more angry about it, and angry at Fox for ruining something so amazing and sticking their fingers in something they truly didn't understand and ruined. So for now, that's it. If you think I missed anything about this show that you think contributed to its demise, please do let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it and about this show. But for now, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. And as always, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss a single video that gets released. Thanks again for watching.
Now what are you gonna do about it? Nothing.